In this lesson, we're going to look at some ways you can write for loops that differ from the standard way you write for loops. I'm demonstrating these to you just to give you a complete overview of for loops. I'm not advocating that you should use the methods I'm going to show you today. So let's get started by going back to our original program that used a for loop to sum the first 10 integers. The first thing we're going to do is create a sum variable, assign it the value 0. Then we're going to say for int I equal 1, I less than 11, or I less than equal to 10, either one would work, plus I, sum plus equal I, and then console right line, the sum is, let's run it to make sure it works correctly. The sum is 55, that's correct. The first modification you can make is you can put the loop control initialization statement outside of the main loop. So let's move it and put it right here. Now notice when I do that, it automatically flags an error. That's because I now have a missing statement in my for loop, so I need to add a null statement for the initialization statement. And I do that by just typing a semicolon by itself. So now we have for null I less than 11 plus I. Run the program, and it still works correctly. The difference is now I becomes part of my main program. Before, let me modify it back, I was only available within the for loop itself, but by initializing I outside of the loop, I now have I available to the rest of the program. That may not seem like a big deal, but it does create some software engineering issues that you probably don't want to deal with, especially in a larger program. So it's usually a good idea not to write your for loops this way, but it can be done. The second modification we can make is that we can place the increment statement also outside of the loop, like so. Now when I do this, I have to turn this into a block. You see how the editor tries to put plus I outside of the loop. I need it back in there, so to do that I have to turn this into a block with the curly braces. Let's run the program again, and you'll see that it still works correctly. So these are two modifications you can make to for loops, but they're not recommended. One of the things I'm very big on is that you write your programs as much for other people to read as for computers to execute. And when you write your for loop like this, you're causing the reader to have to do extra work to try to figure out exactly what it is you're trying to accomplish. Whereas if you write it in the standard form, you're writing the for loop in a way anybody familiar with C# will know exactly what you're trying to do. So you really shouldn't perform any of the modifications I showed you in this lesson, but they are available to you. And in the interest of full disclosure, I thought I'd show you how to make those changes. But again, one more time, I don't recommend doing them. So having said that, we're ready to move to the next lesson, and we're going to look at two statements that can be used with both while loops and for loops to modify the actual control of the loops themselves. And those statements are called break and continue, and we'll see them in the next lesson.